Uh,
All right, so let me tell you the story of how I met the nurse in prison. And yeah, so here we go. Let me plug in. So when I was in prison, um, I used to have this maintenance job. And during this maintenance job, I used to change I used to fuck with the electricity, plumbing, and all that shit. So that gave me access to inside buildings and stuff, and different staff and different, you know what I'm saying. And I was real, cool in prison and shit, and real, chill.
mhm.
And so the workout area was in front of the nursing station. And so when I used to work out, motherfucker used to like I really used to get it while I was in prison, right?
Mhm.
And so the nurses, of course, the nurses be looking and shit like that. And so one day I was going up in the nursing station to do some work, and the nurse, was flirting with me a little bit. And so I'm subbing, but I'm not saying no shit that will get me twisted up, because if you say something crazy, the police, they'll get on you, like they'll send you to the hole.
Mhm.
And so, anyway, one day I had got this boil on the back of my neck, right? And the motherfucker was huge, like back here.
Why?
I mean, hella big, right? To the point to where I don't know, right? So I go to the nurses. It was so big that they had to cut it. They had to do an IND, and that's called an irrigation and drain, right? And so, when I went in there and they did that, after they drained it, they used to have to put the gauze
Right.
inside of it, right? And so since they would put the gauze inside of it every day, I used to have to go to the nurse's station and go
Right.
get it changed, right? And so, when I used to go in there, I used to have to go in there at night, and at night they used to have only the skeleton crew. They only had a skeleton crew of thank you, I appreciate that. They only had a skeleton crew of people working there. Two people that would pass out the meds, one officer, and they had one senior nurse. And the nurse that I was fucking with, well, wound up fucking with, was a senior nurse. So anyway, I'm going in there every night to go get this dressing change. And as I'm going in there and we in there talking and, saying our little shit, I'll be in there popping it. I've always been a motherfucker that could talk. I ain't never been a motherfucker that was shy to talk or was short of conversation, right? And so we be in there popping it, and I'll be saying my little shit and they be popping it back or whatever. And so I was going in there like every day, like day after day, because it took a while for this wound to heal. And so one day when I go up in there, the nurse gives me her lunch. And when she give me her lunch, right, I was like, in my head, I'm like, oh, she must really be feeling me, because, they teach the staff members like you never supposed to give an inmate nothing that ain't got his name on it or that you ain't been directed to give them, because you know what I'm saying? Like you violating, you crossing the line. So when she gave me her lunch, I was like, oh, she really feeling me and shit. Like, oh, okay, I'm gonna start shooting now, right? So, this wound heals, right? So I stopped going in there for a minute, but I would still work out in front of there or whatever. But then I got another one. I wound up getting another boil.
Why was you
Okay,
getting
you
all
know
these
where your leg
boils?
and your ass cheek meet? Listen, I don't know. I had something had got, I don't know, something I ate, something that motherfucking prison like trip off this, right? So I had one right, where your leg and your
Mm.
ass cheek meet, where that
Mm.
crease area is. I had got one right there, right? And it got big again, right? So I had to wind up going back in there. And as I'm going in there now I got to like take my pants down to get this shit looked at or whatever the case may be, right? But we go on lockdown. When we go on lockdown, when you go on lockdown in prison, like for a ride or something, they stop y'all from walking the child or going to medical or everything. Everything has to come to you, right? And so one day the nurses have to make their rounds in the buildings and all that shit. So one day the nurse comes up, they working their rounds, we on lockdown, and she comes by the cell. She comes by the cell and she says, excuse me, Cali Blue, I got you scheduled for your
Mhm.
EKG, right? And I'm like, EKG, like I ain't put in for no EKG, right? Like, nothing like that. And but I didn't say that when she said that to me, because there's an officer that follows the nurse around. a nurse is never supposed to walk around, by herself or nothing like that, because an inmate can either try to attack her or she can try to
Right.
pass something to an inmate. But they not allowed to listen to the conversation because there's a patient
So the
inmate
officer couldn't hear nothing,
confidentiality
basically.
thing that the police ain't supposed to, right, they ain't supposed to hear that shit. So they be cold telling the nurse. So when she told me that, I was like, okay, well, all right, cool. That's what's up. And she walks by. The boil before this was before I got the boil on the leg. So I got a little bit ahead of myself. So anyway, she tells me that, and she keeps walking. So when after she walks by, I turn to my celly. I'm like, cuz, did you hear that? And he hops down. He like, nigga, you better go get that motherfucking EKG. And I'm like, nigga, you think I ain't? So he was
EKG meant
already up
pussy.
on what I was doing because, you share everything. Yeah, he ain't hating, and plus we be sharing everything anyway, because that's my celly. Like when you have a celly, you supposed to be like this. Because if it go bad up in there, nigga, you and your celly got to go back to back and fight your way out of some shit. So anyway, so I go down there to get the EKG. Me and her ain't like we ain't even vibed yet. Like I really ain't really shot my shot. I just been popping little
She already
hugs
knew
or
she wanted
whatever.
you.
But when I go down, I
She
told
knew
him,
she
I
wanted
said,
you before
nigga.
you even started talking, probably.
Well, but I told him, I said, nigga. Exactly. So when I told him, I'm like, cuz when I go down there, nigga, I'm finna take my shot. He like, nigga, and he like, if you go to the hole, nigga, I'll make sure I pack your shit and it all go with you. So he making fun of me or whatever, like, trying to make fun of me. But so I go down there. So when I go down there, when you go get your EKG, they got to put them little sticky things on you, them leads on you. They put them sticky things like by your heart. They got to put one by your leg and all that other shit, right? So I had to come up out of my clothes. And back then I was like, what I'm saying? I was kind of like on my shit. Like my shit was kind of rocked up, right? Like my body and shit. So I'm taking my shirt off. I go up in there. She put them little sticky things on me. And then she put the leads on me, right? And I'm nervous. I'm super nervous because I'm like, what the fuck am I finna do? What am I finna say, to like shoot my shot, right? She turns the machine on. When she turned the EKG machine on, that motherfucker is just like when the tape start coming out, it's registering my nervousness. You know how my heart is racing. It's registering how my heart is beating hella fast, and the tape is coming out. That shit is like, so she getting that shit, and she like, oh shit, there's something really wrong with you, right? And so my square ass, look, I was nervous in the motherfucker, right? My square dumb ass, right? I'm laying there and I'm like, she like, oh shit, there's really something wrong with you, right? And I lay there and I say the corniest shit ever, right? I say, yeah, maybe if you kiss me, it'll make me feel better, right? And she looked down at me, and on everything I love, man, she came right on down there and kissed me dead in my mouth. And it was a wrap
Y'all was
after that.
fucking in there?
It was a wrap after that. Man, I fucked her. I only fucked her one time, but she used to give me head all the time. I used to
Why she
get
only fuck
head
you one
all the
time?
time from her. And she used to bring because okay, so this it's the keys, like the availability, and all that shit. Like head is nothing, but if I want to pound her shit out, you know what I'm saying? Like she gonna have to pull them halfway down. Them keys gonna be because this is the first time I hit them. Look, this is how I hit the one time I hit, right? So now that she my girl, and I got that other boil at the back of my legs. I had a reason to go back up in there, and now she has to provide care to the wound that's on the back of my leg now. So I have a reason to have my pants down. When she used to be fucking, I used to be in that motherfucker for like an hour and a half just to get a bandage change, right? I'll be in that motherfucker, and she'll be taking her time trying to do it. But I had a reason to have my pants down. And then when the police, because like I said, I would have to go in there at nighttime, so there would only be a skeleton crew working. Like I said, and they would be doing it at chow time. So you have all these inmates that are walking around going to chow, and the ones that have meds have to pop out of the line and go to the med line, and then pop back in the line and go eat their food. And then the one officer that worked there, he had to watch the inmates sometimes because they had some inmates that had DOTs, which was direct observation treatment, right? So the one time used to have to watch the inmates take the meds. So when I used to be going in there to get my bandage changed, I just push up there to the door I'm already the maintenance dude. They already know who I am. They don't be tripping on me, right? I already knew the officer working there, so he'd be like, "Oh, what's up, Cali Blue? Yo, you coming in there?" He'll talk shit about the little shit on my ass. He like, you got the little, he'll bust my balls and shit, and then I'll act like, look, I'll play it off like I'm hella sad. I'll be like, "Damn, man, why you fucking with me, man? That's fucked up, man. Don't be talking about my." I don't give a fuck. Like, I don't give a fuck about him talking about that shit, but I'll play it off like, man, that's fucked up, man. Fuck you, dude, man. That's why your football team is boop, 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 boop,
Right.
and whatever, right? He'll be like, man, go in there and sit your ass down. She'll come get you when she's ready. And in my head, I'm like, nigga, this is my bitch, nigga. You don't tell me, you know what I'm saying? But I'll go in there, sit down. My little bitch, my little bra will come up out of there.
Hold up,
She'll
but
bring her ass
Callie,
up out of there, right? And she'll come
Callie,
in there like with some
I
paperwork and
just
shit.
remember something. You
Huh?
had conjugal visits with your
What?
wife. So at what point did you break up with your wife and start fucking this lady?
No, listen to the story. No, hold on. Let me give you the timeline. Here's the timeline. Boom. I was married initially, right? Me and this wife
Okay.
got a divorce. When I got the Calipat, I was fucking with the nurse. So I had my bra. I was getting regular visits. I wasn't getting conjugal visits in between my marriages. I
Right.
was married twice. In between my marriages, I was fucking with the nurse. The nurse wound up giving me $17,500. That's
Wait,
how I
the
got
nurse
out of
gave you
prison.
what?
She gave me $17,500.
And then you used that for a lawyer or something?
I put that money on the lawyer. It took the lawyer 12 years to get me out of prison. That's how I
No
got
shade.
out of
I
prison.
would have to fuck her too. She freed you. That pussy got you out of jail. No shade.
But look, the bitch was, she was, excuse my language, she was crazy as fuck. And I'm talking about, she was like, she had like 50 cats.
Was she
No
pretty at least?
motherfuckers, like no
Was she
lie.
cute?
Like listen, she flew my daughter. Look what she did. Look how she do me, right? She fly my daughter out there, right? My daughter turned 18. I used to tell my daughter, I used to write my daughter all the time. My daughter is, she in my family, D. Lachey. So she on the app. She was my number 6 or 7. Anyway, but uh she used to fly my daughter out to see me. When my daughter turned 18, like up until my daughter was 18, I couldn't see my daughter because she wasn't an adult. And my baby mama was acting funny. In order for you to see your child, you have to get a notarized letter. And my baby mama was like, man, I'm not finna go through all that shit. So I used to write my daughter all the time because she was, you know what I'm saying? She with the shit, like, I used to tell her, like, please just keep your record clean till you turn 18. So as soon as she turned 18, I was fucking with the nurse. So, and I always, anytime I fuck with anybody in prison, I always told them, I'm like, look, I come with a package. You fuck with me, you fuck with my daughter, period, point blank. Like, that's what it is. You know what I'm saying? So when I was fucking with the nurse and my daughter turned 18, she flew my daughter because we from Northern Cali. She flew my daughter from Northern Cali all the way down to Southern Cali and let my daughter stay with her so my daughter can come visit me. She let my daughter use her car and all that shit, right? So boom, my daughter come visit me, right? So then my daughter go back or whatever. My little bro tell me, she like, yeah, one of my friends told me something. And I'm like, told you what? And she like, um, that they seen you kissing somebody in the visiting room. And I'm like, yeah, that's yeah, you already know that my daughter can, yeah, I kiss my, she's like, no, intimately. And I was like, what you say? Like, she like, yeah, somebody told me they was walking by, leaving, switching shifts, and seeing you kissing intimately in the visiting room. So in my head, I want to bang on her, right? I want to go real big on her, right? But she had gave me that bread. And when she gave me that bread, it was like, and she was my piece because she worked in the prison. Anytime them police took one of my phones or whatever in that penitentiary, nigga, she'll give me another phone that very next day or two. I never had to trip off phones. She used to bring me tree, them little Pepsi cans with the
Mm-hmm.
screw away tops. You know how you could take the top off the Pepsi cans and
Yeah.
hide shit inside of it and screw the top back on. She used to bring me tree inside of that, all the shit. Like all the shit. So I didn't want to fuck it off, but I thrashed her as much as I could thrash her without running her all the way off. Because that was my like, you know what I'm saying? That was my my man. That was my
Right.
livelihood. I was eating. You know what I'm
Well, she
saying?
accused
So
you of
yeah,
kissing
but
a
she
woman
accused my
in the
daughter, like, and then
visiting
she
room, and it
told
was
my
your daughter,
daughter
basically.
it was my daughter. Yeah, it was my daughter coming to see me. Then she said that my daughter had stole a chain. That she was no, she didn't say my daughter stole a chain. She said she was missing a chain, a herringbone chain. So I asked my daughter, like, hey man, you see this chain or whatever? My daughter was like, nah man, fuck her. Like,
Right.
you know, what the whoop. Then later on, she wound up finding the chain in her house and shit. So it's like, you know what I mean? Like, it just, that's how crazy she was. You know what I'm saying? So when I got out the pen, look, when I got out the pen, I did try to, like, you know, hook up with, but did I finish the story of how I hit here? Yeah, let's run that. So, did I say how I hit though? I didn't even finish the
Not
story of
really.
how I hit. I didn't even finish telling the story, or I never got to it. Okay, so anyway, one day I go up in there, and every time I used to go into her office, she used to love to feed me. She was a traditional Mexican lady, right? She just loved to, you know, feed her man. So every time I went in there, when I had a phone, she would ask me the night previously what I would want. So the next day when I was going up in there, she would have my lunch ready for me, right? And she would have like CDs. She brought me a watch, like all kind of shit. Like she used to give me all kind of shit. Some of the shit I used to have to tell her to
Thank
take
you.
that shit back. Like, man, I ain't supposed to have that shit. Like, you can't get that. You can't give me that shit. So anyway, I go up in there one day and she sits me down to eat. And when I'm sitting down there to eat, you know, we used to have phone sex. And the thing I think that got her the most was my phone sex game. Because when I used to have phone sex with her all the time, she used to like always say like she had never felt that way before. You know, it could be so, you know, all the little, shit or
Right.
whatever shit. And so I used to describe some of the things or some of the parts of a woman, you know, and how I used to enjoy my woman to take care of her hygiene. Anyway, so one day when she's feeding me, she says, "I have something for you," and I'm like, you know, in my head, I'm like, okay, like I don't know what it was. She never really told me when she used to buy me gifts. She never used to tell me what she used to buy me. She used to just buy me shit and give it to me
Right.
unexpectedly. So I'm waiting for her to pull something out because the protocol is anytime you have something, anytime you have contraband for me, the first thing you're supposed to do is hand that off to me as soon as I walk in the office because I have pockets sewn into my pants legs and all that shit that can hide that shit because I got to get patted down on the way back up out of there. So I can't afford to get that shit found on me. So the protocol was as soon as I come in there, you give it to me, I put it away, we continue doing whatever we finna do. So when she says, I have something for you, I'm sitting there eating, she's standing right off to my right. And I'm like, all right, like, what's up? Like, give it to me. You know, I'm sitting there trying to eat, and she starts to pull down the front of her scrubs, right? And when she pulled down the front of her scrubs, she was showing me that she had shaved everything up, like she went and got her shit like tuned up and shit, right? And so I'm sitting there, and now mind you, I hadn't hit yet. I ain't never touched her, you know, I ain't never fucked yet. And so I'm sitting there eating, and when I turned and I looked at she pulling down the front of her scrub, showing me that bald head, I was like, oh shit. So, you know, I immediately try to cup it one time. I try to slide the hand up under it and cup it one time, you know what I'm saying? And when I do that, I'm like, I'm wasting my time right here. I'm trying to fuck. Like, I ain't got no put like fuck this. So I stand up. I pull her scrubs halfway down and I stand up. We standing face to face, right? And we standing face to face. And I'm trying to slide my shit. Now I don't know how many people has ever achieved fucking facing each other. Like a nigga gotta have
Wait,
long,
so you was
you
fucking,
gotta
y'all
go
was standing up and you
down,
was fucking her standing up
around,
from the front?
and back in. No, I was trying to. My dumb ass was trying to fuck facing this way. My stupid, anxious ass trying to hurry up. You know, I went from cupping it, facing her, to just standing up and trying to slide my dick in there, right? But then I was like, fuck this, right? I told her, I said, hey, I said, grab that chair right there. So I stood up. The chair that I had got up out of, I told her to grab the chair. So she turned around and grabbed the chair and bent over. So I went behind her, right? When I went behind her, I grab her scrubs, and I try to grab the scrubs and the panties at the same time, but I must have missed the panties. But I grab the scrubs and I pull them down about halfway. Now she got keys on both sides of her hips. She's got the keys on both sides of her hips. So I get the scrubs about halfway down, and I look. She got the thong panties on, but she had ass. I don't know how if any of you are old enough to know who this Mexican lady I'm about to say, but Jenny Rivera, Chicky Rivera's mama, Jenny Rivera, that died in a plane crash, had that big old giant ass. The nurse had the same kind of ass like that, right? So when I seen the thong still there, I didn't want to just reach in between her cheeks to grab it because I could miss because her ass was that big, right? So I hooked my finger from the top. Right? And I slide that thing down, and that panty was, laced on that thing was laced on the side. That thing was laced, and I pulled them panties out to the side and pulled them things to the side and had my sit down and slid up in there, right? I was so anxious. Wow, y'all
They
didn't have
did
to
because
go
your
that
side was going
hard.
hard.
Y'all
Your
didn't have to
side was
go that
kept
hard.
inching up.
You didn't have to go that hard.
Thanks,
So
y'all. Thank you for the
anyway,
gift, y'all.
so when I good looking out, y'all, and I appreciate y'all very much. Both sides, thank y'all. So I slip my finger underneath the ass cheek and I pull the thong out, right? I get that thong out and come to the side. When I get up in there, I'm so anxious, right? By the time I got up in that warm thing, I already felt the nut building up in my nuts. Like I already knew I wasn't gonna get but about 7 strokes up in. No, seriously, it was that. So I get up in that thing and I'm like, ping, and her keys on the side of her scrubs is chinging, ching, 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 ching. I'm hitting it just like I just put. So I really wasn't trying to let her know that I was trying to nut inside of her, but I was trying to nut. And look, I'm gonna be 100 with y'all. I'm gonna keep it 100. I'm gonna keep it 1,000 with y'all because we here keep it at 1,000. When I was fucking her, I was damn sure trying to put a baby up in her because at the time I still had a lot of time left on my sentence, and if I can lock in a nurse working in the prison, with a baby, like nigga, I was golden. So this was my strategy, right? So I'm hitting it like, ching, ching. I just didn't want to lean all the way up in it and let it go deep up inside it, right? So as I started, I tried to get the majority of it up in there, but then I pull it out and I get the little remnants of it and try to skeet it on her cheeks just to let her know that I had skeeted outside of her instead of inside of her.
Did she get pregnant?
No, she didn't get pregnant. She didn't get pregnant. I was trying. But look, so when I talked to her, right? Uh,
He tried to trap a nurse dog.
so look, later on that night after I hit, I used to when because she used to always bring me cell phones, so I used to talk to her every time she got off of work. I would of course be on the phone with her all the way till she got home, and all that. I snored and slept heavy, and so when she got home, I'd drive with her all the way home, let her get undressed and all that, let her play with herself before she went to sleep, put her to sleep, and then I'll be on my cell phone running the streets. I'll be in the streets. But yeah, so I don't know where I was going with that. I forgot where I was going, but
Right.
and I was like, I kind of hesitated. Like, she was like, "Did you come inside of me?" I was like, I'm trying to wait for her to give me some more feedback so I can determine if she was cool with it or not, right? I'm trying to delay and shit, right? So I'm like, well, and then she was like, she was like, well, she was acting like she wasn't tripping. And I was like, well, I think I might have a little bit, like, you know what I mean? Like, and then she's like, well, what if I get pregnant, right? So in my head, I'm like, man, if you get pregnant, like in my head, I'm like, if you get pregnant, I'm going to be like, but I play it off again. I'm like, well, shit, man, like, man, I don't know, like, how you know what I'm saying? How you feel? Like, she was like, well, I don't know. I mean, once I seen that she wasn't like immediately resistant, when she didn't resist immediately at that question, that's when I immediately was like, oh, no, well, I would want you to keep it. I was immediately in there, like, yeah, I would want you to keep it, because she
I
didn't
think she
like
would. I think
any
she would have
female that
kept it.
don't want to have no baby. First, she wants to like no baby. Immediately, ain't no.
She would have waited to confirm the DNA
I know she would have
after you
kept it.
got out of jail.
She
Though, but
already
she
she
wasn't
said
gonna
she
let
would
them
have
take the
kept it.
job. She was
So
gonna
yeah, she would
the
have kept
birth
it.
certificate wasn't gonna have daddy on it until you got.
I'd have claimed that mother. I wouldn't name DNA shit. I was gonna make that baby my baby, and she was gonna be my baby mama, and she was gonna take care of me and that baby. Fuck that.
She said she was gonna take care of me and that baby.
Fuck that.
Bitch.
Oh, my baby. I don't give a fuck who baby that is. That's my baby. I'm baby daddy. Fuck that. Yeah. Fuck that. Hell yeah. That's a prison story for you. I got a few more of them for you. I'll tell you later. I don't want to give them all to
You
you
tried
too
to get the prison nurse pregnant.
fast. You know what I'm saying? Shit. Hell yeah. Why wouldn't I? She used to run it in too. Careful, motherfucker. She was bringing me CDs. I had all the latest CDs. Shit you couldn't even find on the little catalogs, right? Niggas used to be like, hey, cuz, where you get this CD from, cuz? I'd be like, nigga, why you asking me so many questions? Nigga, who you work for, the police? But she was like, she would just go to the store and just buy me. She didn't even know what she was buying. Some of that shit I'd give to the white boys, or some shit that I'd just be like, I'll sell that shit. But some shit she used to like get that was cool. So yeah, she ain't nowhere near me. You sound like
He don't
Pastor.
sound like Pastor.
I sound like Pastor.
He don't be saying in Jesus' name or none of this. He sound like Kelly. Sound like Cali Blue.
That part. But yeah, I'm glad I was able to change your little vibe, because when I first got over here, I felt the vibe was different. So yeah, I was glad I was able to
Yeah, it
distract
was
you
a
a little bit.
very
No, I don't talk to the nurse. So look, after I got out of prison, right, I tried to hook back up with her because I was trying to get a free trip like down to Southern California, because that's where she live at. I wanted to get flew out, because like I'm thinking she gonna want to fly a nigga out, right? So I find her on Facebook. Right, let me open this window. I find her on Facebook Messenger. We hook back up, and I start talking to her, right? And so, in talking to her, you know, for one thing, I wanted some get back about that in the prison shit, because, like I said, it only took me about 7 for real. It was over with, right? So I want some get back. So I'm like, hey, so we talk, we do our little preliminaries. I don't just jump back in like, hey, I want to fuck. We do the little, hey, how you been, all the shit. How's your mom, dad, all the shit. So I'm like, yeah. So you remember that thing we? Oh, this is how crazy she was. Let me tell you this before I tell you that. After we fucked and we were talking and all that shit, she started telling me, she used to be paranoid, right? And she told me, she said, I think they got a videotape of us fucking, right? And I'm like, a videotape of us fucking? She like, yeah, I think they got a videotape of us fucking. I'm like, what make you say that? She like, because of the dentist's office. Now, mind you, I worked in the maintenance department. I put in wiring and did change, shit all through all those buildings. And the one thing that they don't have is a camera that's pointing from the dentist's office into the head nurse examining room, because you cannot film people getting naked, like what our genital, and people doing medical inspections on us. They can't film that. Like that's against
okay.
HIPAA rules. Like there's all type of violations and shit. So I tell her, I'm like, man, she like, no, what if they got a film of us and what do I said, listen, if they had a film of us, we wouldn't even be sitting here having this conversation because they'll get your
Okay.
ass up out of here and they'd have shipped me to a whole different motherfucking prison. They not finna sit around here and wait on us to build like we ain't moving nothing. We ain't doing nothing. This is a whole type of security violation. We would not be sitting there. So that's how crazy she was, right? So anyway, when I call back up to her, when I catch back up to her when I got out of prison, right? And I'm talking to her, I'm like, yeah, so let's do what, let's, remember what we did in the office and shit like that. She like, nah, I don't know what you talking about. I'm like, so you don't remember when we was in the office and I was in the ching 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 and she like, no, I don't remember. And I'm like, in my head, I'm like, this crazy ass. And I'm thinking
Why would
back
she
to
acting
when
like she
she
don't
thought the
remember?
camera. I, I, I don't know. The bitch, excuse my language. I apologize once again. She was crazy as hell, like for real. Like, and I don't. She used to accuse the goon squad of breaking into her car, stealing paperwork, photocopying it, putting it back, and then locking her car back up, and putting everything back to where it was again. I used to be like, this
I
lady
don't think that
cuckoo
was
for
her first
cocoa
time
puffs,
doing it,
but
Nikki.
I didn't wanna like say how cuckoo for Cocoa Puff she was because she was my golden key. You know what I'm saying? Like she was I was, you know what I'm saying? I was penitentiary balling off of that. Like it was nothing. You know what I'm saying? So yeah,
Okay.
crazy. So that was my prison story. And yeah, that's what's up.
I don't think she was curving him. I think that she might have, because like you said, she was a paranoid type of bitch.
Yeah, she wasn't curving me. Because even after that conversation and I shook her, she still continued to try to make contact with me. But I was already like, I'm not tripping. I just tried to fulfill my obligation. Like, if you fucked with me while I was in prison, especially like that, I was obligated to go break her back at least once. I was gonna go break her motherfucking back. I was gonna go fulfill my obligations. But she was tripping. But then after I backed up off of her, then she started like trying to hit me again. Hit me. I'm like, no, I'm cool. I'm off here on some other shit right now. I'm doing some other shit. I'm cool. I'm way off on some better shit.
She better than me. I'd have tried to fuck again.
Yeah, nah, it's too much craziness attached to that. Mm-mm. There's bigger and better things out there.
Yeah, and you
It's
never
always
said that she
something
had a
better.
real cute face. You only talked about her body. She must not have been that cute. She's alright.
She wasn't my type.
Oh, at least she had a big booty.
Yeah. I mean, I like my curves. I like something with some curves on it for sure. And I
Mm-hmm.
love my sisters.
Did anybody on my side want to do a raffle? Raffle? Money?
We doing raffles. I might got $1 to holler one time. What you
He's
talking
smiling
about,
because he's
Jen?
having a flashback on his.
Niece.
He's having a flashback.
No, that ain't why I'm smiling. But yeah, what you talking about, niece? Get out my motherfucking business.
Mm-mm. But I'm gonna unline you because I'm finna try to make them do a raffle with me. So I'm gonna talk to you later, boo. Zeddy. 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 Anyway, do y'all want to play a raffle right quick? Yeah, let's play a raffle, y'all. It's gonna be $10 entry. Y'all know the cash app is on the screen. It's starting off at 0. So yeah, it's $10 per entry. We're gonna spend the wheel at 20. So yeah, what we finna do? I go to the bathroom first. I probably feel like I should do this a little bit later. I really want to get off and then get back on and do a raffle later. And I mean, I really don't got nothing to do when I get off though. That's why I feel like I should just do it. No shade. You ain't had no money anyways, Tim. Every Tim I ever met was poor. Y'all notice that? Y'all ever dated a nigga named Timothy? Either they be broke or they be weird as fuck. Yeah, I'm gonna wait. But isn't it? It's 3 p.m. here, so probably do it around like 7 p.m., 8 p.m. EST. Like a couple hours. That's what I'm gonna do. I pretty much got most of my stuff packed. I just gotta take that stuff out the dryer. They be pouring spirit. They be putting 20 on 10. They be put 20 on their personality and they spirit. They put 20 on 10 everywhere but they spirit. They poor. They lacking in that department. It's sad. Pushing over the one. Thank you, Foxy. Oh, Cardi B won the case against Sasha K. Damn.
The jury has reached a verdict. This is breaking news. The jury has reached a verdict against Latasha Keeley. There was a unanimous verdict, and
damn, I hate when I'm hitting buttons. But like I was
ladies and
saying.
gentlemen, the jury has reached a verdict. This is breaking news. The jury has reached a verdict against Latasha Keeley.
Thank you.
There was a unanimous verdict, and the jury has ruled Tasha K is liable on all counts. She is liable on all accounts. Tasha K just lost the defamation case that Cardi filed against her. Tasha K, the jury has already said she has to pay $1 million, and there's more to come. But this is a breaking news story. You've heard it first.
Okay. Y'all know how Big O got drama? YouTube has drama too. And basically on YouTube, like, let's just say I went to YouTube and I started to discuss celebrities. There are going to be people that are not, okay. There's a subset on YouTube where they just talk about celebrities. But the crazy part about them talking about celebrities, the losers of YouTube talk about the people who report the celebrities. You get what I'm trying to say? So there's bloggers who report celebrities, and then there's loser bloggers who report the blogger who blogs the celebrity. You get what I'm saying? If that makes sense? So instead of them talking about the celebrity, they'll talk about the person who's talking about the celebrity. You get where I'm going with this? That's like me going to YouTube. I'm talking about Nicki Minaj, and then somebody want to report on me every day. Like, bitch, I'm a whole news person. Why are you talking about me? I'm not trying to be famous. But anyway, long story short, Tasha K, and this man named, what's this nigga name? Did you say his name?
The jury